Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, the tools that we create with. Our thoughts are prayers that spirit resonates with. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of mindfulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. Every thought becomes a prayer.
Let us just remain in this space where we are holding consciousness, the highest good for ourselves, in prayer. We honor our thoughts for what they teach us, and we honor our higher self and our connection to the divine as we allow it to direct our thoughts. And so the prayer and the pray become one, a beautiful unfolding of truth. We give divine acknowledgement to this path that we are all on. Not only do we hold the light for ourselves on this path, but we do it for one another as well. And I invite you now to speak the names out loud of those that you are holding in your hearts and in your minds, that you may be perceiving someone needs a little extra light or needs a little reminder of the truth of what they are. You may do that now. Sophie, Gina. Yes, yes, and yes. We offer the vibrations of these names up to our yes universe. We see them in their divine splendor. We see the beautiful unfolding of their souls as they open up to receive more. More spirit, more wisdom, more compassion. As they receive these things, they are filled and they exude them. They give the gift that only one who has received spiritual nourishment can give. We hold this for them, and we continue to hold it for one another as we step assuredly on our path that we know this is the truth for us. And so it is. What a beautiful sea of green. if you're not wearing green, I would always forget and I would always get pinched, but I remembered today. That was a great school. Do they still do that, Benjamin, at school? Yeah. They still pinch you if you don't wear green? Okay. All right. Well, you're not in school today, so I think you're off the hook. You got some teal laces on your sneakers, I see. Maybe that'll count. Oh, you got a green t-shirt underneath there. Oh, okay. We're good. Okay. I think we pass. Oh, green rules. Is that what that says? Oh, Ben rules. Well, see, I need glasses. Okay. So you've all heard our speaker isn't here today, but we're just going to move right on forward, and we're gonna go back into. We're going to start with the Lord's Prayer, and then we're going to head right into meditation. So let's say that prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself. And I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will be tender with my heart. I will be tender with my heart. And I will hold my heart like a newborn baby child. I will be tender with my heart. I will be tender with my heart, and I will hold my heart like a newborn baby child. And I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. I will be easy on myself. I will be easy on myself. And I love myself like a newborn baby child. I will be easy on myself. I will be easy on myself. And I love myself like a baby child. I will slowest part of me feels safe to go. And I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. Now I know I am gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself, and I hold myself like a newborn baby child. I am gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself, and I hold myself like a newborn baby child. And I rock myself like a newborn baby child. And I hold myself like a newborn baby child. And I love myself like a newborn baby child.
So let's all just breathe into that feeling of safety, that feeling of being held. That loving arm of presence that wraps around us and holds us tight, empowering us to speak truth, to think loving thoughts, to connect with one another in loving ways. In the daily word, it's the affirmation is, I trust that my highest good is unfolding. I trust that my highest good is unfolding. And I know this to be true because I am held by the divine. I am uplifted by spirit. I am spiritually fed by my source. And because all of my basic needs are being met, I can move forward trusting that my highest good is unfolding. Before I begin my day, I pause for a prayerful moment and affirm, my highest good is unfolding. If you'll continue to allow my words to be your words as I read from the daily word. I turn within and enter the silence, devoting time and attention toward the unlimited peace and power of my source. These precious times in prayer remind me of Jesus' time spent in the Garden of Gethsemane. Meditation allows me to commune with Spirit and feel a greater sense of oneness. In these moments, I feel God's presence in the garden of my soul. Even in my darkest hours, I am reminded that God's light always shines for me. The truth is that divine light shines in, through, and as me, supporting me in facing any of life's challenges. Remembering these truths, I remind myself of the good unfolding in my life. And so I invite you now to breathe into that knowing that good is continually unfolding in your life. Breathe in that knowing and release any expectations you may have about what that should look like. Breathing in the truth that Spirit is continually unfolding, and exhaling, releasing any expectations of what that should look like. Let's continue to do this as we move into the silence, focusing on the knowing and trusting that my highest good is unfolding now in the silence. And as we breathe, feeling so self-assured of the oneness we are experiencing within ourselves, we become more aware of our community, our neighbors sitting around us, and the oneness they must be experiencing as well. We all experience this in different ways. There is no right way. There is no wrong way. We accept one another's experience as the vital path we are each walking. We honor this in one another. And from Isaiah 58:11, the Lord will guide you continually. We hold this for ourselves, and we hold this for one another. The Lord will guide you continually. And it is good. And so it is. Okay, I was hoping we would have a lot of people today because we've got our meeting afterwards, our annual meeting. Is everyone going to be able to stay for that?
Yes.
Okay, just tell me yes. Good, I hope so. It'll be a short meeting and then we'll have a potluck, so that's what you really want to stick around for. I hear there's some wonderful yummy soup. And other things, I'm sure you all brought lots of things, but corned beef hash soup. No, not the hash. What was it? Cabbage? No. No, nothing canned. Corned beef and cabbage soup. Okay. Oh, potato leek. Okay. A lot of us are going vegan, right? I know a lot of us in this community are, and I'm hearing that more and more. Or at least maybe not fully, but kind of leaning towards that way, maybe eating a little bit less meat. I know I eat a lot less meat than I used to eat. And that's part of nourishing ourselves as well, isn't it? When we consciously choose what we're going to be putting in our bodies. That's equally important. Because these vessels that we are in consciousness inside of are the house of God. We come together in community, and our theme for the month is community, recognizing community in one another, knowing that we are one. But the first community is this. We are in relationship with the divine. And these vessels are very important, that we pay attention, that we listen, that we follow that inner voice that tells us, eat this, don't drink that, or whatever it is. These thoughts come to us actually as divine ideas. And then they filter through our, the grooves we have in our mind of all our personality and our biases and all of our life experiences goes through this human filter, and then it might come out as, oh, I want caffeine, I don't want water, I want coffee. You know who I'm talking about, right? So it's important when we be still and listen. And I wanted to, because we've got our annual meeting today, and our speaker wasn't able to join us this morning, I just wanted to go over with you our basic unity principles. I think we did this maybe a few months ago, but it's really nice to do it when there's a full house like this. And our theme for the year is One Humanity, Many Stories. So I also, we've got a microphone. As I'm speaking, if you hear your story in these principles, you may feel free to raise your hand and join the conversation. I always like to say we're having a conversation because, you know, we're not a minister-centric church. That's not what we're about here. I love to get up here and give you a unity message, but that doesn't mean anything if you're not taking it with you into this community, outside into your community, and holding those thoughts, things you agreed with, things you understood, maybe your aha moments that you get to share with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family, with one another here. I know that many of you have these conversations with one another when we're having coffee and Rod's cookies and Betty's delightful gluten-free treats that she makes. I hear you having these conversations, and it warms my heart because this really isn't about me. It really isn't about what I think. It's really about what you hear, what you can assimilate, what it touches within you that you already know, the truth that you already know, because I am never saying anything that you don't already know, right? Yes, Susie. Okay, so our affirmation for March in our One Humanity, Many Stories theme is, the theme for March is creating community, and the affirmation is, I am open to a deeper understanding of spirit within all people. We are one. I am open to a deeper understanding of spirit within all people. We are one. That just feels really good to me. And so I'm asking you to kind of hold a lot of things in mind as I'm going over the unity principles. This theme that we have of one humanity, we all have our own stories. The sub-theme of community and recognizing that we are all one. And then listening for yourself in these principles. And if you are so inspired to say, yeah, that's me, or yeah, I have a story about that, don't be afraid to raise your hand. We've got lots of time today. Okay, so principle number 1, and these are all on your pamphlets. You've got all of these right here. God is absolute good and everywhere present. Are you green? Oh, is there? Oh, isn't that lovely? Wait, there's green under here. Oh. Well, this is divinely inspired. I did not know this. That's awesome. Now you have a bookmark and you can take this with you wherever you go. God is absolute good and everywhere present. Okay, where do we not see that? That's an easy one, right? we don't see that in lots of places. And yet, it is our job to hold the truth that no matter what is happening, no matter what the outer appearances are telling my 5 senses, I still get to know that the highest truth is that God is absolute good and everywhere present. Sometimes it gives you a stomach ache though, doesn't it? I mean, we feel the news viscerally. We hear some of the tragedies. Lots of people don't even listen to the news anymore. And I used to be one of those people years ago. I was one of those people 20 years ago. I just why? I don't need that. I don't need it to pull me down, right? And then, I came to know meditation and I came to know the unity principles, and I felt stronger. I felt like I was walking in my spiritual confidence. And I was able to see that whatever I was hearing and seeing outside really wasn't the highest truth. I was able to look at things metaphysically, meta meaning up above and physical, right? Up above the physical, looking at that big picture of how really we're just all down here playing our roles, acting out our stories, creating relationships and interactions with one another for the purpose of growing so that we can learn about ourselves, so that we can learn, peel away the layers and know more and more and more about what is going on within. That spiritual unfolding. Because I know that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I know that you've all experienced that as well. And when we can separate ourselves from what the world is telling us, that separation of thought, like when we watch our thoughts, when we are the observer of our thoughts, there's that separation where we know, okay, I'm having this crazy thought, but I know that's not the truth of me because I can observe it. It is separate from me. And so when we can create that separation between ourselves and the chaos that is always knocking on the door, then we get to remember that God is good and everywhere present. Even within the people that rub us the wrong way, right? Because that next principle is human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ Spirit. Therefore, our very essence is of God, and we are inherently good. Everybody is inherently good. There's a large amount of people on this planet that don't know that. And that's really sad. I think if I didn't know that, and I looked at people at the personalities that they were projecting and thought that that's the truth of what they are, that would really make me sad. I mean, even the people that really have lost their way in the sense that they're not connected, they're obviously not connected consciously, on purpose, with their spirit, with that divine spark. You know, that's really sad to watch. But at the same time, I get to separate myself from even my feelings. My emotions are not the highest truth of what I am. So I might cry when something really is painful to see. But then it's a release that brings me back to the truth, that brings me back to light, that brings me back to joy. So then I can hold that person, see them as light, pray that they too will get to experience this joy that I know. And hold them as that, because they don't have to believe it. We are supporting our brothers and sisters all over the planet when we see them as bigger than they know themselves to be. And so human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ Spirit. Therefore, our very essence is of God, and we are inherently good. You know, I'd never heard that spark of divinity within them, and I'm curious, how many people here were raised Catholic? I just read, that's a lot of us, right? And I'd never heard this before until I came to Unity, about this spark of divinity, that concept. But I was reading something, I was reading a political article, and Nancy Pelosi was giving an interview, And she was saying this. She was saying, I was raised Catholic, and I was raised, my parents taught us that there's a spark of divinity within everyone. And I was like, what? I didn't get that message when I was a kid. Did you know? It's not just me, right? We went to the same school. Did any other Catholics, did you get that message when you were growing up? For posterity, we all heard you.
I said my parents did give us faith. And we were in a small Catholic church in the country, so we went to CCD, which was school on Monday night at the priest's house.
Oh, wow.
And he put on the football game. So
Okay.
it was not serious. But there was a lot of love.
Yeah.
At least I felt that.
Did you feel like that you had, maybe you didn't call it the spark of divinity, but did you feel like that Christ resided within you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I felt a connection to Mary.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Randy has something to say. She's up here.
Well, I come from a Jewish background, and every Hebrew letter contains the spark of divinity. Every single Hebrew letter has this shape in it that kind of goes like this, if you can see me. And it's considered
Like a little flame.
It is a flame, and it's in every single Hebrew letter.
And so you were taught that, and like you were taught with that's the symbolism, and then you were able to, when you, I see in movies kids go to Hebrew school. Is that's like what you do? Okay, before you have your bat mitzvah, right? You go to Hebrew school, and so you were given those symbols and taught the language, and that's such an affirmation to see it as you're speaking it. That's incredible. Incredible. Thank you. I know you've told me that before. That's a wonderful reminder. Okay, so number 3, we create our experiences by the activity of our thinking. Wah, wah, wah. That's a tough one. It's like, really? Okay, so I do catch myself in this whirlwind of negative thought, and then I'm like, what is happening? And then I do my little stop in the name of love, right? And then, because we have to do those, that's later, but we have to do those denials to create the space, to create a stopping point when we feel and hear ourselves with those thoughts and those emotions, and the stories that we tell ourselves that just are ridiculous. These old tapes, these old beliefs, that God knows where they came from, right? But then we get to look at how is this being demonstrated in my life? How is this thought manifesting out into the world and into my experience of the world and into my relationships? If I'm having a negative thought about a person, then I can't really show up and be my best self for that person, can I? So I need to get right with me first and recognize this is my responsibility. It has nothing to do with the other person. The other person didn't do or say something to be mean to me or to hurt me, right? That's my perception. And that's big when we want to sit and wallow in our own pity party. So, yes, we create our experiences by the activity of our thinking, and I think Rick had something to say.
Well, I don't know how these things get changed around, but if you look in our booklet,
Yes, the
Item
wording is a little
3.
different.
it says, we create our experiences by what we choose to think in which we feel to believe.
Feel to
And-
believe, that's an interesting way of wording
I
it,
think
isn't it?
it's really important because I think for all of us, we have beliefs that are below the radar. And they are kind of driving us. And when we don't recognize the fact that what we're believing is affecting how the world looks to us,
Yeah.
it's reflecting it back.
Right?
I think it's really important that we look at that, not just our thoughts, but what are we believing? What's that underlying belief?
Very, very good. Yes. Christopher, there's someone in the back. Thank you for for doing that for us.
I recently have been aware that I'm not happy with some aspects of my life, and I found, I believe this man's name is like Aaron Dowdery on YouTube, and he talked about, in this particular video, he talked about going back in meditation, and a lot of times we got this belief, this false belief about ourselves somewhere, most likely in childhood, but I haven't been successful yet, but I've been practicing going back, trying to remember where I've come up with these false beliefs, because that one thing just manifests like everywhere. But I believe his name is Aaron Dowdery. I can look it up if anyone's interested.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yes, there are many techniques that we can use. I think the most powerful one I've seen for this is to think about, like, you identify a feeling with whatever your experience is, right? Whatever the specific emotion is specific to this situation, and then try and think back of when was the first time I had this feeling, right? When was the first time that I felt this way? And you go back as far as you can, and you don't, it's easier than it sounds. You don't do this inventory, the older you are, the harder it is kind of thing. That would take forever. But just intuitively return to the first time you felt that way. And then you look at what that experience was. Right? Because we recreate experiences so we can have the same emotions, because if it wasn't resolved, obviously when you're two, when you're having this emotion, right, it's not going to get resolved because you don't even have the words to express it to whomever you feel is oppressing you or whatever. I mean, these aren't concepts a 2-year-old has. But if we can get back to the root of what we were feeling at the time, and then recognize that we're just recreating that because it's unresolved. We're continuously going to be recreating these things for ourselves, for our good, right? This is for our good, so that we can move through these things. It's not so that we can wallow in our pain, it's that we can say, oh, my mom said this really harsh thing to me, but she probably didn't mean it that way. I was just really little and didn't understand. And so I can forgive her, and then I can forgive myself for holding on to this for 50 years, right? And then when I feel that feeling again, it's not so traumatic. I can say, oh yeah, that's this. And obviously we have layers to work through, right? Everything comes and goes and ebbs and flows. But those underlying beliefs that Rick pointed out, those biases, they're the story part of us that we shove away into our shadow side. And when we experience them, that is such a great opportunity to shine love and light on them and saying, yeah, that happened, and yeah, I can deal with that. And now I can heal that at the level that it's showing up, right? It's not a poof magic thing, but I can heal it at the level it's showing up. And I can love it for showing me where my beliefs are, where my biases are. So thank you. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Number 4, prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God mind. And now I'm going to look at both of them now that Rick pointed that out. Oh, same thing. Okay. I've seen that one. Now, these basic unity principles have an evolution to them, and then there's splinters and branches, and different churches will print them in different ways. They all have the same basic idea. This one is, when I first was knowing unity, number 4 was more about the practice of denials and affirmations, and prayer and meditation both. I've noticed that in a lot of unity literature, the literature is kind of falling away from meditation. You'll see it in unity ministers' writings about the stillness and the silence and how important that is, and it's all over Charles Fillmore and Myrtle. Anything they write, you're going to see that everything we know comes from knowing the stillness. But for whatever reason, that meditation piece is kind of falling away from our literature. And so I really want to continually bring you back to just that little reminder, that little pest, right? I want to be your pest that tells you, just go within. Everything is about consciousness. And we can't really hear what we're thinking, what God is saying to us, what that divine connection is wanting to express, if we are not stilled to it.
I've been absorbed in Myrtle this week. I've been reading Myrtle, her healing letters.
Speak a little louder.
In her healing letters in particular. And, it's the core of where we come from, is meditation and stillness. Yeah, she's just in the center of that. And I was watching an interview with somebody who had known Myrtle, and they said she would go into the silence at Silent Unity, and the whole place could feel it.
Wow.
And they didn't know that. And she always sat in silence, and she set that chair for Jesus Christ next to her, and she sat in the silence. And there was a shift in the whole place, and everybody could feel it.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I said we can't forget that piece of where we come from. It was the foundation. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I love those sweet Myrtle stories. Go ahead.
Why do you think we've gone away, or it's going away from the meditation piece? I'm curious.
I really haven't given that any thought, but as you're saying it, all these thoughts are flooding into me. All churches in the United States are seeing a decrease in attendance. Even way more so, New Thought sees a decrease because we don't have the dogma, the guilt. We aren't telling people they have to be here. We're telling people that God is everywhere present, and commune with that at whatever and wherever you are. And my experience for myself when I talk about meditation is that I feel a kind of a wall come up with people, because there's a lot of myths about meditation that, well, I can't do it because there's too many thoughts in my mind, right? We all have that. I can't do it because I just can't make my mind be still. It doesn't work for me. But when you've heard me talk about it, I'm talking about recognizing the relationship between myself and my thoughts. So that when we go into this practice, we get to see more and more that we are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are just the stream of consciousness that we can choose to grab onto or not. And I would recommend not. But if you haven't had a good meditation teacher and you're just told to meditate, right, then that's like, that's just not something I can't do. And maybe on some level, the association, Worldwide Ministries, has felt that as well, that there's a resistance for people to want to meditate. Like, we're not going to tell people to go up on a hill in a cave. We're in community. And that's another, myth about meditation, is that you have to live a certain lifestyle or whatever. And so if there's a resistance to what meditation is because we're not delving into what it actually is, we all have our ideas, our beliefs about it, then it might just push people away from hearing the unity message if they're coming here thinking that meditation is a requirement. What does Denise think? She raised her hand first, then we'll go around.
I think it's still very much present in Unity from people that I know and from the association. And my friend, many of you know Sarah McLean, who's come here and she's a meditation
Yes, she
teacher.
wrote that book.
And she has been back at the village doing trainings with them.
Good.
And so it's very much present
That's
there.
good.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it less, you don't see it in the 5 basic Unity principles when it's printed out. You don't see it in other places where it's normally has been in decades past. So, we have silent unity. Meditation is the basis for unity. Always, always. Yes, ma'am.
I agree with what you're talking about, meditation. It almost seems like there's a connotation with it out there. Well, but in unity, I always like what you say, we're going to go into the silence. Mm-hmm. And I love your reference of the thoughts and that we are the observer.
Yes.
That's such a for me, that was a hard concept when I was first exposed to it. But I do think that meditation has gotten the word has gotten so overused, and it might be associated with a different style.
Yeah, and whatever style works for you, I think, is great.
True.
Yeah. Randy has something up here.
I was at a meditation about, maybe like 3 months ago, and I found myself drifting away from the guided meditation, and in my mind I was visualizing that I had 3 little dogs, and I named them Oscar, Meyer, and Wiener. And for the entire meditation, I just focused on Oscar, Meyer, and Wiener. And so now, whenever I start to meditate, I start thinking about Oscar, Meyer, and Wiener. What it does, it makes me laugh, which lifts my vibration. Eventually, I can get to the place where I'm just following the breath. But until I get there, as my thoughts are drifting, I just keep going, Oscar, Meyer, Wiener.
Yeah, awesome.
From my perspective,
put it closer, sweetie.
From my perspective, I was brought up Catholic, and I have participated in different religions.
Mm-hmm.
I have been invited, and I'm always willing to go and learn from different perspectives. I believe that one of the reasons meditation have been separated is because from different groups of religions, meditation is non-related to any religion.
Mm-hmm.
So when I used to when I used to talk about meditation to my friends or my parents especially, or relatives, they were like, you are on a sect, because when you are meditating, you are not praying, you are getting your mind away from prayer.
And so is that a negative thing that it sounds like a negative connotation?
Yes, it was, because if we were into meditating, we were somebody completely against any religious organization. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes, I used to lead meditation for a group of girlfriends. We'd go away on weekends, and we'd always have a meditation as part of our Saturday morning. And a lot of times people would bring a friend or a mother-in-law or somebody, and so we didn't always intimately know everyone who was there. And there would be maybe some more traditional Christian beliefs that would think that, we were doing something that really was against God. And so there is still a lot of lack of understanding in our country, in the Christian modality part. piece, right? The piece of the pie of our culture as a whole. And so, yeah, it's important not to get caught up in that, and just to remember that meditation is just always taking us to the truth of what we are. That's all it is. It's nothing scary. It's nothing we have to be silent for. So I want to move to number 5. Knowing, understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. We must live them. Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. We must live them. Have you heard that phrase, God is a verb? No. That's not a thing. That's probably more of a maybe it's a younger generation, new thought, new age concept. It's kind of a call for young people to say to other young people, hey, we're not stuffy people in a church. God is a verb. We're out and we're doing and we're being the hands and feet of God. And I say that's just great. But we have to know what we are and act from that place. If we are always remembering that we are a reflection of the one true source, that God is love, and therefore we are love because we are created in that image. And we get to come from that place. And then, be that verb, be that God that is out in your community. Allow that divine flow through you as we show up as our true selves, as we open our hearts to one another in community, whether it's the guy pumping your gas or if you're meeting someone out on a trail, strangers, close, intimate friends. We just have to show up as the best versions of ourselves because we know what we are. And then as the who of what we are, we get to go out into the world and be that. And so I always want to encourage you to, yes, we must live these principles. Yes, sir.
Well, sometimes I think that can be done by simply asking people how they're doing, or just saying hello. Because what I've experienced is, and I've experienced it myself, and I've seen it in other people, you can be in a what I call a thought trance. You can just be in your own thoughts, and whatever is the reality of your thoughts, and then some random person says, well, how are you? And it's like you see them snap out of it. And I don't know, I've experienced that on both sides, and I found it very helpful. And sometimes when I ask people how they're doing, they'll look at me really surprised, like they haven't been asked that in a while. And that sometimes it makes me sad, but I'm glad that I took a minute and asked. I don't ask every single person I want to, but sometimes that's all it takes, is just, that's being present, is just asking a person, how are you? How's your day? How's it going?
And it just kind of softens the wall that's between you, right? The wall that they have created by their thought trance, right? They're walking around in this bubble with a hard shell. Yes, ma'am.
The word has been coming to me quite frequently, and that is respect.
Okay, say that one more time.
Respect. Ooh. A word has been coming to me frequently, and that's respect.
Yeah.
Respect others.
Respect others. Does that speak to you about being open to whatever experience they might be going through? Because we don't know. We can never know what's in someone else's mind and heart. And just be respectful of where they are in that moment, right? Mm-hmm. And kindness. Kindness is a big word.
I have a sign in my house saying, scatter seeds of kindness.
Scatter seeds of kindness.
Hello. I have in my house a sign that says, scatter seeds of kindness.
Awesome. Thank you. Find our gifts that we would like to offer to our community, but I wanted to just revisit our affirmation. I am open to a deeper understanding of spirit within all people. We are one. Can you repeat that after me? I am open to a deeper understanding of spirit within all people. We are one. We are one. And so it is. Okay, I invite you now to take your gifts and your offerings, your love and your joy, and wrap it up in your hands. Hold it to your mind or to your heart or lovingly in your lap. And let's say this blessing together. Divine love, flowing as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am grateful.
Do I desire? What will bring me to my highest good? What do I want? What do I desire? What will bring me to my highest good? Prosperity, prosperity, I claim it, I claim it. Abundance, abundance is mine, is mine. Love, love flows through me, flows through me. I feel joy, all the time, all the time. I can have it, I can have it. I deserve it, I deserve it. I claim it, I claim it. It is mine, it is mine. I can have it, I can have it. I deserve it, I deserve it. I am it, I am it. It is mine, it is mine. Peace, peace fills my heart, fills my heart. I surrender, everything, everything. Health, health is my birthright, is my birthright. Helps me sing. I can have it. I can have it. I deserve it. I deserve it. I claim it. I claim it. It is mine. It is mine. I can have it. I can have it. I deserve it. I deserve it. I am it. I am it. It's my time. It's my time. Break it on down. Anything I want. Anything I desire, anything that brings me to my highest good. Anything I want, anything I desire, anything that brings me to my highest good. I release, and let go, I accept, what is mine, I can have, what I want, and let spirit, direct the flow. Life is good. Life is fun. Life is great. This song is done.
So it is, yes. And so let me ask you one more time to bring your attention up to the front so that we can honor the gifts that you are given. Because we know that as we give, so we receive. And so our prayer today is that we are open to receiving the many, many splendid ways of the Lord. That divine spark that is growing within us. That divine spark that is allowing a reflection of Source into our community and into all the gifts that we give, for we know it is good. And so it is. So it is. All right, let's stand and say our prayer.